I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be how to become more interesting to women. I'm going to talk about in this video some things that you can do, some techniques, some mindsets, some strategies that you can use so wherever you go about your life, like especially say you're going to a party and it's the weekend, or you got a social function to do, or you're just going out with your buddies to raise some hell, and you want to know how to interact with women in a way that will cause them all to go, God, I want to talk to you, and they'll want to be around you, and they'll want to get to know you, and they'll be fighting. When you get enough of them together, they'll be fighting, or they'll be pulling, two different women will be pulling you onto the dance floor trying to get you all to themselves. I got an email here from a guy that I've coached in the past, and he says, just to let you know, this weekend I am free, and I'm going out with friends for some drinks. And I want to invite this other girl that I met on set, his particular client is an actor, to come with us so I can have some fun. There's going to be a lot of good-looking girls there. That's awesome. Make sure you take lots of pictures. Make sure you have your phone with you, and so have a picture with a hot girl on your right, a hot girl on your left. Take both pictures and put those on your Facebook so everybody can see what it is you're doing and what you're up to. He says, and one of them is going to be a girl that is friends with this girl that he's been seeing, or he's been out with a couple of times. You can't really say that you're dating this girl. You've only hung out with her a couple of times. He says, this particular friend is like a sister to me, and I have no attraction to her. And the thing I would say is, whatever you do, don't talk about the other girl that you haven't heard from or that hasn't called you recently, trying to figure out how she feels, or hey, I haven't heard from her, because it will get back to this other girl. And that's probably why you're bringing it up, because you're thinking about those things. It's a bad way to go. She's just a possibility. Some girl you went out with a couple of times, big deal. Especially when you got all these beautiful other women around you that you can have a good time with. He says, what should I do this week to have fun and just be a challenge and be attractive to women? He says, plus, how should I ask this chick out that I know from the set? I said, I can't believe you're asking me that question after you've been through my book how many times, how to ask a girl out. But anyways, let's talk about conversation starters. The thing to understand is that when you ask other people about themselves, especially women, when you ask questions that cause them to talk about the things they like, the things that make them happy, things that they're interested in, or especially things that they have their opinion on. I mean, you're going out with girls that you work with, all fellow actors and actresses. And so here's the interesting thing about it. I don't know if you've ever been through Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, but it's a great, things like, the course is like 100 years old, but the stuff still applies to this day. People love to talk about themselves. And when you ask another human being, hey, where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? What do you do for a living? And they start telling you, and you go, wow, really? No shit. Huh. Wow, that's fascinating. How did you get into that? Huh. And you just say things like that, they'll go on and on and on and on and on and on about themselves. And in the process, when they talk for 10, 15 minutes, they're going to start to feel guilty after a while. And there's this thing called the law of reciprocity, meaning after you've listened to them talk for all this time, then they naturally feel obligated to start asking you things. And at that point, like especially if you're talking to a group of women, they'll start asking you questions about parts that you've been in, things that you've done. And the idea is to keep women talking. Is you want to be a little mysterious. You want to tell women a little bit about yourself. And you can say things like, oh my God, that's a long story how I got into that. But that's for another time. And then you'll talk about, because you're in show business, and the oldest adage in show business is you always want to leave them wanting more. And so when you're talking to women, you could throw little things out there, and you could talk about this thing that you did in your past, and you can say, oh, that's just, I have to have a lot more drinks to tell you about that story. But let's talk about, and then you just ask them another question, and then throughout the conversation, as you throw little things out there like that, or you tell them a little bit of your background and say, well, I can't tell you all of that. I don't want you to know all of my secrets, and they'll giggle and they'll laugh. And then you go right back into asking them about something else that they were talking about. And the idea is that you want them doing 70 to 80% of the talking, and you do that by asking questions. I mean, if you're interested in them, you're going to be fascinated by them, you're going to want to know everything about them. They're going to want to know what it is that makes this girl tick, why it is that she enchants you so much. By making sure she's doing 70 to 80% of the talking by asking the questions, since you're the one asking the questions, guess what? You are the leader of the group, and you're the one that's in charge, or I should say in control, of where the conversation goes. And so by doing that, by being mysterious, by throwing things out there, by telling them a little bit about yourself, but not everything, just enough to get them curious, and then just say, well, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. And then you just change the subject. You say stuff like that. They're like, what? And then they're going to, like 5 minutes later, they'll go, well, tell me the other story. And they're like, oh, I got to buy you a drink. If it takes 2 more drinks, okay, let me buy you a drink. Like if they go to tell you something, say, well, I'm not drunk enough to tell you that yet. And then it'll be a challenge for them. Then they'll be trying to buy you drinks and stuff like that to get you to talk, to reveal more about yourself. And the idea is you just want to have fun with it. And the thing to notice is when you've got all these women around you, the women that like you the most, this is what's really great, especially if you start talking to 3 or 4 women at one time, is that women that like you, and you got them all talking, and you don't really focus on any one particular girl. You talk to all of them. Then what happens is the one you were just talking to, and then you start talking to the other one, she's going to try and get your attention again. And notice who's touching you. Notice who's standing too close. Notice who's bumping into you. Notice who's laughing at all the stupid shit that comes out of your mouth that you know is not really that funny. But women help you when they like you. In other words, they want to let you know that they like you and they think you're funny just by laughing at the stupid things that you say. And if they're touching you, I mean, you could, if the girl's standing there, I mean, you don't have to wait to hook up. You don't have to wait to get the number. It's like I talk about this stuff to do that in my book because most guys are just terrified of talking to women in general. And they need to work up to those things. But if you're comfortable, you're having a great conversation, the girl's standing right next to you, and she's been touching you, and you got your arm around her, and she's got hers around you. As you pull her in, I mean, you can just pull her in and look right over at her, into her eyes, then down at her lips, then into her eyes, and then down at her lips again, over the course of 4 or 5 seconds. And if she looks at your lips at any point, since you've already got your arm around her and she's got hers around you, just pull her in and go for a kiss. And make out right there in the bar. And then you could say, hey, well, why don't you get out, or you could say something like, let's get out of here so we can go someplace where you and I could be alone. And she's more than likely, if you're making out and you're having a good time, she's going to be like, sure. Like, let's go back to my place. And if you're smart, you got a nice little fridge at your place. It's got some champagne in it, some glass champagne flutes, so they'll be nice and ice cold. Maybe a little pint of fresh orange juice. So if you got a girl back over, it takes 1/4 of a glass of orange juice and 3/4 of the glass will be filled with champagne to make a great mimosa. Girls love those kind of drinks. And you can have some chocolate body paint in the fridge. You can have some chocolates in there. You can have some whipped cream, maybe some pre-cut strawberries. I mean, the idea is you got this stuff kind of all planned out. And it's there, so when you get back to your place, you got a nice little stocked fridge with so you can have a little champagne party, a little maybe some chocolate, some things you can put on each other's bodies and lick off or kiss off, or just you can use your imagination with it. The idea is to be prepared, because when you meet a girl and the connection's there and you're making out, then just invite her to go back to your place. And if she's not willing to go back to your place, or she says, well, let's do it later, just say, hey, let me get your number, and get her number real quick. And then move on to another venue, move on to another place, or start talking to some other women. Because if she doesn't want to go back to another place, and yeah, you've been kissing her, making out, but more than likely some of the other girls that like you that are there, especially if it's a big place and there's a lot of people, I mean, you got her number. I mean, you try to get her to go back to your place, and if she does, more than likely she will, but if she doesn't, just start chatting and flirting with some others, because the idea is you got to be okay with getting rejected. You're going to get rejected. It's just the way it is, but the more you practice your skills and the more you interact with women and the more you wait for the subtle cues of when touching is appropriate and then going for a kiss, like I talk about when it's appropriate, you can naturally move it right from the bar stool to the bedroom all in one evening. Or if you're talking and you're too nervous to go for the kiss and you want to just get some numbers, you can say, hey, you just pull out your phone, let me get your number before I forget. And then you put her number in your phone, and then you text her while she's standing there, say, great, so I just sent you my number so you have it. I personally, I don't fuck around. I don't waste any time. I make a date right on the spot. But when I was younger and starting out and was still nervous and insecure about this stuff, I use the stuff that I talk about in my books, where you get the number and you call for a date and all that stuff. But the idea is you got to go at your own pace and do what you feel comfortable with. But the most important thing you should understand is, like, when you go out, the mindset is you're not going out to pick up chicks. You're going out to have a good time with your buddies and blow off some steam, but just keep that in mind. You want to make sure everybody around you is doing 78% of the talking, and you're doing maybe 20% because you're the guy that's asking questions, and that way you keep the conversation going where you want it to. And if you're talking to a group of women and you're tired of talking to them, or you got a fat and ugly one that you want to get rid of, you can just say, hey, it was nice meeting you. I got to get back to my friends, and then you just turn right back to your friends and go on about your conversation, and the chick will move on. So if you have a question you want to ask me, or there's a topic you want me to cover in a future video newsletter, go to my website, click the Contact Me tab on the left-hand side of your screen, send me 1 to 2 paragraphs max detailing your questions, your situation, and your challenges. Just give me several days to get back to you with a response, because I get a lot of email from the internet, and I also get a lot of it from my paying phone coaching customers. But be patient, and I will get back to you. If you want to talk to me right away, the quickest way to get my help is to book a paid phone coaching session, and you can do that by clicking the Products tab, which is going to be at the top of your screen, and just follow the instructions. And if you want to get a digital version of my Kindle ebook, you can go right to my website, and underneath the email sign-up box, there is a link that'll take you right to my Amazon homepage, and it only takes 60 seconds to download the Kindle version. And I will talk to you soon.